This is the Daily Whatever.
I'm Dana Dubois, and it's still the Daily Whatever. And this
And we've
is
got a
our,
lovely guest,
yes,
Füsun Aydín. Introduce yourself, please, to the people who may
Füsun.
not know you.
My name is Füsun Aydin. I live in Portugal, but I'm from Turkey. I am a sex worker and I'm also a self-proclaimed writer.
My friend, you are a writer. There's no self-proclaimed about it. If your community tells you that you are a writer, you are a writer. And I am not the only one to tell you that you are a writer. Every chat, pop off and tell Füsun that she's a writer, please.
right? So I will say,
Wendy says Füsun writes better than I do. And for Wendy to say that, my God.
right?
Because you know that girl thinks she can write. And she can.
She can write.
She's not wrong about it.
She can write, indeed.
If even Füsun deals with doubt, y'all, just know that that happens to all of us sometimes. You are a magnificent writer. And I, like Wendy, am very fussy about who I say writes beautiful memoir, and yours is
Let's just
spectacular.
check in here with the chat for a minute. Wendy says Füsun writes better than I do. So, yes, damn girl, you are a writer. Shannon, oh no, Shannon's just saying that she's listening in while she's on other calls. TLVH says she's my favorite writer. Robin Wilding says, you're publicly proclaimed as a writer. The 1 Minute Daily Boost says, you're a freaking writer.
Okay, I'm a writer.
I rest my case. The community has dictated. It is true.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you ever so much, everybody. It's very kind of you.
Yes, you are a wonderful writer. And Lawrence, you are a wonderful olive ASM artist. And I just put the link in the chat to, well, oh, actually, this is just to the note. It's the Cliff Note version of it. But I think it's enough that you can all get the idea. So you're not distracted from the Daily Whatever. And yeah, enjoy. Trigger warning, whatever you need.
Yeah.
It's very funny. It's very, very funny as a part of this olive war. Lawrence is an expert in olive lingus. Yes, essentially. Karen, I laughed so hard I wet myself.
Lawrence went nuclear.
I
Nuclear.
figured, if we're gonna really have a spat about whether olives are good, then let's at least ground it in some real life olive tasting. And maybe I went a little overboard. Maybe I was extra horny for olives yesterday, but
as one gets.
you know what? I don't care. I put that out proudly. I rewatched it yesterday evening, and I gotta say, I'm fucking proud of it.
Brandon, I wish it were something other than an olive. Well, it has to be an olive. I mean,
yeah.
This is. Has Ben seen this? Has he commented on your video? Because I feel like he's the origin story of this olive war.
He is the intended audience. Him and Brandon. I think it left Brandon feeling slightly confused, which was my goal basically.
Right.
And I think Ben is trying to fight back against it, but realizes perhaps that he's being overwhelmed by the forces of goodness and light.
It must feel like for Brandon, it must feel like he's in a gangbang at the moment,
Poor thing. Go gentle on Brandon. We love you, Brandon. It's okay. They're just olives. And I will say, because you do mention this in the video, Lawrence, I don't really like blue cheese. Because you're like, who couldn't like blue cheese? A lot of people don't like blue cheese. It's pungent and weird, and not the right kind of pungent and weird for me. It's just a little too. I like a little of it in like a sauce to add a kick, but to just eat like olives, I prefer my olives with pits. So when I do my video, which perhaps I shall do one day, I would certainly not be swallowing the juice. And I would not, my olives would have pits, and I would have to be not
so
swallowing.
Dana, what we're learning here is that you don't.
I don't swallow. Right. I have to pull the pit out because you don't swallow the pits. I mean, I don't want an olive tree growing in me.
Right.
Um,
Should we actually talk about what we're here to talk about?
But we had to address the olive thing first, Lawrence.
We did.
It's been just like right here.
Wow.
Karen
is coming in, both guns blazing. She says, Dana, you should dance with olives on your nipples.
Should I though?
I mean, I'm not the target demographic for that, so I'll let you decide.
It's bit here.
Where's bathrobe guy? I think he might be target demographic.
Yeah, I don't know how I would I'd have to hold them, I guess. I don't know that I'm gonna do that. But who knows? The world is a strange and unusual place, and we never know what's gonna happen. So
That's true.
cheers.
And just to shout out, next week or possibly sooner, I will be reviewing Castelvetrano olives or possibly Moroccan dry cured olives, which Füsun I think might also be Turkish dry cured olives.
Probably.
Yeah.
One of the same.
Yeah. All right. So we invited Füsun back because she's a writer. I don't know if you know that. And she this week wrote something that I think is beautiful and pretty extraordinary. Füsun, I'm not going to try to steal all your thunder here, but I will say it's it's the prologue to her autobiography, and in it, what struck me, Füsun, the most is not only was it beautiful storytelling, but from my perspective, having read a lot of your work, it's a different voice for you. It is a different style of writing. And I think it is extraordinary that someone who is so adept in one form of writing could be like, hey, I'm going to try this other voice and like pull it off so well on your first try. And I know because we've talked about it that was a struggle for you, that you were trying to figure out how to voice that correctly. And so I guess I would just like to start by asking you to tell us about Sea Glass in the Womb and how you got to that voice to be able to write that.
I think, well, thank you very much for your kind words, and I appreciate it. I think maybe the biggest, what I usually write on Substack is usually prose poetry. I could consider it to be prose poetry, and that has a very specific kind of register, and it's very and I write in quite abrupt manner. So sometimes when I'm supposed to use commas, I'll use full stops, periods instead. And it's deliberate. It's not a mistake. But with writing a memoir, I found that I couldn't write in the same way because of just how lengthy it is and how much information I'm trying to convey in one chapter or one piece. So I couldn't do that. So I had to adapt and read other people's books and almost in a sense try to learn to write again in a different way. And it's not a process, it's a process that I've been trying to work on for years because I'm conditioned to write one way. So it's been a gradual evolution, I think, from one thing to another. It's not something that I could do overnight. It's something that I had to take years to try and do, and read other people's memoirs specifically, or memoirs on Substack, to try and not emulate but learn from that.
Yeah. I think that's a really I don't know that writers talk about it a lot, but one of the ways I think that you discover your voice as a writer is by reading other people's work, and to some extent trying to emulate the pieces of what works in their writing in your own writing. And at least for me, what you end up with is kind of this amalgamation that is, it's you, but it's pieces of other people's style wrapped together. And I think, you did that in this piece, and and brought off a voice that still sounds like Füsun, but it is different from, like you said, how you write your other pieces.
Mm,
So I thought that was really, really well done.
thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, okay. No, I heard that. I thought it sounded like you were going to say something else after that. But not to put you on the spot, but would you be willing to read a piece of Sea Glass in the Womb?
I was just gonna
Sure.
ask like word for word the same thing. Like, I hope it's okay if we ask.
Right.
Sure, let me
Um,
just pull it up.
and I'll put it in the chat here. It's because I came in through. Hang on, it's 'cause I came in through.
While you're pulling
No,
up, I'm going to
yeah.
read some things from the comments. So Karen says, Lawrence, you should use olives as eyes for your sock puppet. Uh, that's funny and hilarious. And now I have to make another sock puppet with olives for eyes, but probably not real ones because that would get gross and stinky.
And it would be a waste of two good olives.
Right. Right. A waste of a sock and two good olives. Um, I mean, not that my socks haven't been covered in olive juice before, mind you.
Of course, I mean, as it's clear from your video that that's probably happened.
Uh, Fasoon, are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Yeah.
So, I'll read one of the paragraphs. Darkness, warm darkness swallows me. I am floating in the sacred hush of my mother's womb. I am not alone. I am joined by my brother who is floating beside me in this cramped sanctuary of flesh. We drift in our private sea, two souls entwined before birth. The only sounds are the whoosh of her blood and the distant snare drum of her heart. It is a temple of absolute silence. We are its faithful acolytes. We are curled in prayer in the half-light filtering through her skin. I can just make out my brother's form, a pale shape drifting opposite me. He is my mirror, my first true friend. We have no language yet, but in this quiet Eden, none is needed. Our thoughts brush gently against each other.
It's fucking beautiful, Fasoon. And I don't know if you can see this, but the hearts were fucking exploding across the screen as you were reading that.
Thank you.
You have this incredible way of, in everything that you write, but especially here, setting the scene so that it feels so immediate, I think, for the audience. And I'm wondering, how did you embody that, that thing that maybe most people don't remember, right? Being in the womb. How did you tell me about that?
So obviously I don't remember being in the womb, and I
Okay.
don't
I mean,
remember
from reading that, I would swear that you did.
and being born. But that is, if I was to remember it, that's how I would want to remember it.
Mm. Hmm.
Instead of the banality of growth, where you're sitting dormant, unaware of what's coming, unaware of your growth and your formation as a human being with endless possibilities and futures and things like that. I wanted it to be more eventful, more aware, more emotional, and more reflective. Actually, more better of all. I wanted it to be a firmer foundation to what being a twin is,
Mm.
where a connection is so profoundly formed in the womb that it's often not written about because people don't understand. But that connection, that lifelong connection that you take with you through your life with your twin forms in that environment and
Right.
exactly in that environment. Because if you were born separately, you wouldn't have that connection. It's about, I wanted to paint a picture of what, or at least attempt to paint a picture of what that actually feels like and what it means and what it was like without ever having knowing, but only using my own imagination, I guess, to create that image.
I love your story, and I love this paragraph you chose to read. What I hear, what I, of course, and what I read into this, two things. One are that I'm sure in knowing you that this is going to be two parts of the story. One is that, like you referenced, this is a state where most people think there is no awareness or consciousness. You've always known who you were. And you know that's going to be a theme that's going to run through this story because it's your story. And I feel like there are echoes of that in this, of like even in the womb in this tiny, tiny little embryonic state, you have awareness. And the other, I assume, is setting the reader up to be able to feel how much it hurts when you lose this relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's foreshadowing whispered through this, even though maybe I just read it because I know that's part of your story. That like as you're born as your real self, you're going to lose this part of you that was always there as your first self was developing. So that's going to make it extra gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching for the reader.
Yeah, I agree. I think that foreshadowing is entirely the theme of the first 15 for the whole memoir. It's all essentially foreshadowing to one moment, and it's the gradual. Where me and my brother started off as close as two humans can be, and then the gradual widening of a gulf. That's you've hit the nail on the head. Exactly. That's what I wanted people to see and to feel.
How much you must miss him. That's hard. Just as a technicality, are you two identical twins or fraternal twins? Not that it matters.
We're identical.
You're identical twins. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were literally the same cells at one point. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Uh-oh, I think Lawrence had to go get more olives. Oh my gosh.
There's an interesting argument that could be had to whether we are, given my current gender expression, identical. But I think that's much more of that takes a lot more deep thought, like it's an interesting thing to explore, but I try not to think about it too much because it's too confusing.
That is confusing. Hold on, now that you've touched on it, right? If you are indeed identical, and this is who you've been all along, right? Have you ever, so how much can we talk about your brother and like the present day reality? I don't want to give anything away or.
We can talk about it. That's fine.
So you haven't spoken to your brother since you were 15, correct? Since you left?
No, my twin brother, actually, we reconciled a couple of years ago.
Oh, right. Okay. My memory is like Swiss cheese. Have you ever asked him about like either his thoughts or if he also shares this doubt of like, if we are indeed identical, how are we so different?
I think, Dana, if I asked him that question, his head would explode. I think he. It's not that he isn't a deep thinker, because he's profoundly intelligent, and he has very, very good comprehension on most matters. I just think that would send him into a spiral, which I don't think he would understand me less as a result of me asking him that question. Does that make sense?
I
It
think
makes
it
sense
does.
to me having
Parsing that. Yeah.
having struggled with my own queerness, right? And then having close relationships with straight men, I know that there's a kind of a mental bridge across which the straight male brain cannot cross without sort of losing its bearings, and it creates distance as opposed to intimacy. Yes.
I would like to ask him. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd love to hear what he has to say, but it's the situation still, to me, even though a couple of years have passed, still feels delicate, and I don't think he still, as pleasant as he is to me now, fully understands who I am as a person. I just think because, especially in Turkish culture, I think these things are beyond most of societies, no matter how open-minded they are, is beyond their comprehension. They don't understand. They don't um they can't see why somebody would want to do that. You know, it's to transition. They and I think he's part of that wider cultural ignorance. I don't use the word ignorance as like a pejorative. I just say it in general, is that he's kind of part of that cultural ignorance where
Sure.
he just even though he lives outside of Turkey now, he just doesn't understand. Like I just don't think he understands.
And he has to, at some point over the years, have pondered this question, even if talking to him about it would sort of destroy your relationship. I mean, you're identical twins. There has to have been a like, but hey, how come she's this way and I'm this way? Um, Man, that right there would just examining, like, you all should be in like a research study. They're always studying twins and what happens. Like, that is so interesting. Wow.
Knowing my luck, Dana, if I went to a research study, I'd get Dr. Mengele.
Oh God.
Right.
So yeah,
There's a definite fear there, right?
for sure. I wish it could be a. Yes, you're right. Forget I said that because it is
No,
fraught.
it's
But
okay.
there is
Can I
something fascinating. Yeah, Lawrence, I can see you're wanting
I
to ask
just
a question.
kind of getting back into the story, there's so the scene where your mother is in the market, right? And she's reaching for, is it a Jaffa orange? Is that
Jaffa, yeah.
yeah, and her water breaks, right? And then you paint that scene so beautifully of the community pulling together, you know, your mother giving birth to you and your brother right there in the market, um, and the women who immediately kind of cluster around and make that a sacred birthing space. And I was just wondering if you could talk about, does that come from family stories that you were told about your birth?
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about that?
So my mother never ever told me about our birth. She didn't speak about it at all, really. Like, I never heard her mention it. It was more my aunt Selma was she'd say it all the time about how so my mom had my mom was overdue with us by a few days.
Wow, with
And
twins, she went
yeah,
overdue. Okay,
yeah,
that's unusual.
yeah, it is. Um, so she had kind of locked herself into to the apartment we were living in because she tried to keep the fact that she was pregnant with twins a secret from neighbors because we had a communal bathroom and there was already a burden on it and she didn't want to be judged for bringing more
Mm.
people into the environment. So my aunt Selma had convinced her to go to the market with her. And my mom my aunt said my mom could barely walk. You know, she was massive. And she'd gone to the market and she'd asked for she'd gotten for some fruit. It was a Jaffa, and that's the one recurrent thing that comes over. Like my aunt says that if my mom hadn't have reached to grab the Jaffa, her waters wouldn't have broke. You know, but so that's what happened, and it's a story. And then we were given birth in the market. They offered to take my mom to hospital, but my mom has or had an irrational fear of hospitals. Like she just wouldn't go. None of the children that she ever had were born in a hospital.
Mm.
None of them. And so yeah, she gave birth in the market. A doctor came, and you know, my aunt always tells of a circle of women, and they were entirely women that formed around my mother because men were trying to get involved, and the women pushed them away because they were trying to get involved. And yeah, it's a story that's been handed down told to me relentlessly over the years.
Family legend, right? Family mythology.
Yeah, because we were first twins, and I don't know if there's special significance in Romani culture for twins, but the midwife who delivered us was Romani, and we were at that point the first twins she'd ever delivered.
Ooh, wow.
So it was just told to me a lot by anybody who wasn't my parent, you know.
So that scene is absolute magic. It was so clear that the circle of women around your mother were forming a circle of protection, right? And making it into a sacred space. And then that moment where the Romani midwife pins the evil eye ward onto each of your blankets. Just
Yeah.
it is as beautiful a piece of writing as I've ever read from anybody. It is so good. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just gushing because I think I see what you were trying to accomplish in that moment, and you did it. You just knocked it out of the park. It's so
Thank you.
good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. They call that evil eye. When a child is born, they call it nazar.
Nazar.
And yeah, and it's a thing I think that most Muslims children are given to warn off evil. Yeah, it's also the term for karma as well in Islam, nazar. So it's always interesting. Like I think about that moment a lot is as to why as kind of explain why I haven't been killed or something. That's stupid linking
Not stupid.
together of things, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Keep thinking it.
yeah, I will. Yeah.
All right,
Wow.
Dana. Sorry, I've been dominating. So please
As
jump
someone
in.
who has had 2 babies, I'm like, not at the same time. Um, I I I I was just rereading the birth scene, and I'm like, "Oh my god." Your mom just whew. That's, the birth is a remarkable process. I never successfully delivered, the traditional way vaginally. I had 2 C-sections, so it was very medical births, and I'm like, "God, that's just so raw to be like, I'm right here in the market," and then it was so fast. I mean, it took 26 hours for my first to eventually be born
Wow.
over C-section, yeah.
Wow.
So, like, water breaking and bam, there are these 2 little wriggly babies is astonishing. Also, you almost share a birthday with my youngest.
Lovely.
Yeah,
That's
she's the 5th.
lovely.
She's the 5th, my brother's the 6th, and you're the 7th.
In
A whole
ascending order.
a whole bunch of
Yeah.
Aries right there.
Nice.
I know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Ye
I had a silly moment with Füsun where I wrote her and I was like, and by the way, happy birthday, June 7th. And she was like, what are you talking about? It's April 7th. I swear to God, when I read this article, it said June 7th. And I was like, oh my, like you wrote it on your birthday. That's incredible.
That olive
So,
brine, Lawrence, it's pickling your brain. That's
right.
the
I don't,
only
all the
explanation.
olives, all the olive pickle juice is pickling my brain. So yeah, anyway, we then decided that June 7th was honorary Ecuadorian steamroller
Of course.
day. And, you know, April 7th is Füsun's birthday.
Perfect. A great way to celebrate both of these magical events.
Yeah.
Füsun, are you willing and able to share kind of the trajectory that your autobiography here will take? I know this is chapter 1. How much are you willing to share about what's to come? I mean, there's elements of it we know are coming because we know you. Does it go through all 30 years?
No,
15?
it stops at 15. It's
Okay.
it's I'm saying like I'm writing it like an obituary,
Oh.
but
Oh,
it
and okay.
because a lot of you know like as I will get I'm going on a tangent, but I will link back to what you're saying. Um, a lot of trans women dismissed their lives before they transitioned, and I understand why they do it. Of course,
Mhm.
you know it's you know it's very painful. It's very um it's a painful period pre-transition, and I know this, but I realized one day that 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 the boy that I was had done nothing wrong to me. He 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 didn't ask to be born, and he didn't, you know, and he did everything he could to carry me to the moment in transition. And I wanted to tell the story of his life now that it's over and give him a voice, because I can hear him as some kind of separate entity screaming at me sometimes, saying, "You're only focusing on from when you transitioned and 15 years onwards. That's the only time you're focused on. But I was here before, and I went through stuff, and I went through all of this with you." So the story is gonna tell the story of his life in school and in poverty and all of the unbelievably stupid things that boy did when he was when he was when he was still going around. Things like, you know, stealing wallets from tourists and and poverty and school and lack thereof going to school and and all of these things. But essentially, I think the central theme about it around it is dysphoria. It is the feeling inside me that gradually got worse and worse and worse, and the distance that put between me and the other people. Um, like for example, my
Yeah.
brother.
This is reminding me of I think you've met Shar Sundust, Lawrence and my friend, who is a shamanic healer. And she does a practice called a soul retrieval, whereby and I had one years ago. She sort of, you could probably explain this better than I can, Lawrence, but it's about the practice of spiritually reconnecting to past parts of yourself that got lost along the way due to trauma. Is that a fair explanation, Lawrence, of what a soul retrieval is?
Yeah.
And as I'm listening to you talk about the 15-year-old boy who you were, it feels almost like you're doing a soul retrieval of I need to reconnect and honor that boy in order to go on and be who I am. Is that a fair description of what this story is doing for you, or the process of writing and acknowledging his story is doing for you?
Absolutely, 100%. It's 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 giving him a funeral.
Yeah. How do you feel when you think back on that boy? Like, how did you feel about him, and how do you feel about him now at 30 as you're finally honoring his life?
When I was younger, I had a lot of hatred towards him. I didn't I would not look at pictures of myself. In fact, I deleted almost every picture of myself that existed, or threw away, because this was in a time when not everybody had camera phones, that even that close, that recently. Um, I despised him. In truth, I really, really did despise him. Um, but as I've got older, I just felt incredibly, incredibly sad for him. Not just for transition, not just in the context of gender, just in the context of his life, and not in a sense of self-pity. Like, I just think he was very, 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 very lost as an individual. And I think he was not always a very nice person, but now I understand why, when I didn't then. He was absurdly loyal to his family. And I think that was a waste of time as well. And I feel sad because his loyalties were misplaced. Where his loyalties should have been with himself, they were always with other people. And of course, I am in a sense talking about myself, like, and I am speaking in a sense in the third person.
Yeah.
But I feel incredibly, yeah, now I feel sad. I feel very sad for him, and I just think those 15 years, by virtue of the at times cruel nature of biology, were completely wasted. In misery and sadness and yeah, it's just sad. I feel sad for him.
I want to read this paragraph. Perhaps I wrote this to understand how a queer child in that corner of Istanbul carved a path all the way to this moment. I write also for the little twin boy I once was, the boy who had a story, the boy who has lived, the boy who, out of sheer necessity, had to be killed and rebirthed. Here's my question. Did you do the sucker, like the gut punch at J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter in that paragraph on purpose? The boy who has lived?
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Yeah.
My God, I fucking adore you. That's
very funny.
The skill that it takes, right, to write this incredibly momentous paragraph on, like, hey, yeah, I had to kill the boy that I once was so that I could live. And in the process, you fucking gut punch J.K. Rowling. Seriously.
Thank you. It's not hard to hate J.K. Rowling.
It's not hard.
It doesn't take any skill to hate J.K. Rowling. I can tell you.
It doesn't take skill to do that, but it does take skill to weave that into like the most,
Right.
like the the crux paragraph in your entire chapter. My God.
Yeah, total zing right there.
I just think that if ever that does lift off into another dimension, and for some bizarre reason, she puts her hands on the book and reads it, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's
There's no
the
doubt.
thought in my
My
head.
friend, I saw it all. As I was reading the story, I saw that moment. I saw the book becoming a bestseller and J.K. Rowling reading that and being like, fuck.
She won't even have to read it because people are gonna
People will tweet about it.
So
they're gonna send it right at her.
she'll say,
I had a moment for J.K. Rowling this weekend of thinking about her and being like, because I was talking about how much we loved those books, Lawrence, and how we waited at night, at midnight to get the new ones as they came out, and
such a shame.
what a rite of passage it was. And like, has there ever in history, in our lifetimes, anyways, has there ever been a history of someone who was so beloved?
And then so reviled.
Who could just give it all away by her own hand over and over and over, and in a way that like negates what she built, because I mean, we're old. Gen X is old to have been into Harry Potter. We were not kids when these books came out. We read and loved them as adults, but millennials on down read them as kids.
Yeah.
And this is these are generations. These two generations are really coming of age, being far more in tune with their gender expression and coming into their own. So it's like just such a slap in the face to her primary generation. And like, why that? It's like, how, Lawrence, we joke about how we're living in the wrong timeline and how everything went, once Bowie died, everything went, we just got set onto the wrong parallel universe. Like, J.K. Rowling's self-undoing to me is proof that we're in the wrong one. Like,
Yeah.
she should be a beloved grandmother sort of figure of like, you gave us a narrative for the ages. You created a world for us we all grew up with.
Right.
And a common point of reference that's like a source of goodwill.
Listen, you were about to say something.
Sorry.
What were you about to say? Do you remember?
Yeah. No, she'll write a tweet about it. You see what these trans activist author, in quotations, is trying to do to me. He is a bully. That's what she'll say.
Yes.
It's exactly word for word.
Right. And then
Anyone's a bully
on
I'm
a
gonna know.
banana peel and break her neck and die, and that will be the last thing we will ever read, and she'll be done and dusted into the bin of history.
It's such a profound shame. That's like J.K.
Yes.
Rowling. It is such a profound shame that she chose this path after doing something that was so ridiculously influential
Yes.
in our recent history, that she chose a path that marginalizes an almost inconsequential minority in the world.
Right.
Yes.
Like she is
such a
awful.
punching bag from such a huge pulpit. I'm mixing metaphors there, but like, why are you punching down so hard over and over? Like, what the hell has the trans community done to her other than exist on their own and done nothing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, why? It's so like, pick a real cause, JK. Like, this is not a problem. You are making a problem out of something that is not a problem. John Pierce is weighing in the chat of, not in any way to apologize for J.K. Rowling, but there is an old expression that hurt people hurt people. It does not in any way excuse her present stance, but to try and understand why she has taken the bullying stance she has. I don't know how she was hurt. Yes, probably there's something in her that needs to punch down and bully down, but I don't know why. And Kat is saying, we are sincerely living in the Deathly Hallows. We are. We should be making Voldemort and Death Eater, parallels with our current administration here, and we should all be brave like Gryffindors and fighting and kind like Hufflepuffs. But nobody's doing that anymore because it's all just covered in hatred goop now, and you can't call up those references without hearing all the harm she's done in the
Exactly.
distance since. And it
Exactly.
sucks. I think
Exactly.
she was a victim of domestic violence from a trans person, or just in general, she is very sensitive to. Yeah.
I'm sorry to
Right,
interrupt, Dana.
Go on. Yeah.
Could we maybe spend less time talking about the waste that is J.K. Rowling and more time talking about
Yes.
our fabulous writer friend Füsun?
Shift away.
Because we could spend an entire episode talking about this, but
Yes.
I don't want to today because Füsun is here and we have such an amazing piece of writing to celebrate.
Yes. Take the floor.
Füsun, I guess, so I know of what you said to me, and what you say at the very end of this is that you would like to maybe publish this a chapter every week. And I'm just wondering, how is that going?
I have already every first draft of every chapter is already written.
Okay.
It's already written. So every week I am going around chapter by chapter and redrafting it and then publishing it. So it's already there. But it's an exercise in stamina, I'll tell you that. It's an emotional and physical stamina, but it's already there. I already wrote it. I've already wrote a lot of things in diaries and things that I've tied together and put together. But it's going well. I like it. I like the structure. I like the routine. I like doing it. It's like, some people, pardon to be crude, but some people go to glory holes and I go to my keyboard, like it's the same kind of satisfaction that I get from it.
And circling back to our initial topic, that is how you know you're a writer. If you would choose like self excavation and the trauma of memoir over and the satisfaction of writing a chapter well over going to a glory hole, congratulations, you're a writer.
You're a writer. Wow, I love that I'm heartened by the fact that you have them all at least drafted already, because like Lawrence and I'm sure everyone else here on the chat, we're eagerly awaiting the next installment. So the fact that there's drafts of each means that there's drafts of each. We're closer to seeing them.
Are you going to do a fixed day of the week, or is it just going to sort of be catch as catch can?
Sunday, I think.
Awesome.
I think Sunday. It's I released the first one on Sunday kind of on a whim, and it seemed like a good day to do it. And so probably Sundays, maybe a bit earlier on Sunday, so I catch people waking up instead of when they're already out and about doing their business, So Sunday for sure.
Okay.
I love it.
Do you have aspirations to get this book published, like a hardcover book too?
Yeah. I'm doing 2 books for every 15 years. So the first 15 and then the second 15. The second 15 will be exclusively in book form. I won't publish it on Substack. Primarily because as much as I want people to be able to access my work, I also want to make a living from it. And I can only be make my work as accessible as long as it's not negatively impacting my financial situation. So, like I'll post the first 15 years on Substack, and after a week they'll go behind the paywall. But that's it's a necessary evil that
Right.
I can't do it entirely for free.
Yes.
Well, you may think I'm joking. I am a wee bit psychic from time to time. I've already told you that you are going to be a published writer. You think I'm joking when I keep saying that you're going to show up at the Met Gala in a fabulous, fabulous gown. Yeah, it's going to be published, Füsun. It's magnificent writing, and it's something that deserves to be read by the world. And I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Just remember us little people back here at the Daily Whatever when you're, traipsing around with the New York Times.
Right.
I already said I'd buy you both a villa in Acapulco and
Ooh.
and
Okay.
Biff
All right,
can
well,
come as well.
I'm not going to hold you to that because it's way more important to me that everyone reads your book than it is that I get a villa in Acapulco. So,
Oh my gosh. Maybe just a trip together to Acapulco so we can all
how
meet
about that?
and celebrate.
Yes, we'll go. We'll go to
Villa for a
Acapulco
week or
and
two. Yeah.
rent a big villa with a pool and drink lots of champagne.
Oh, God, that
Splendid.
sounds so nice. In seriousness, though, I know someone here who works with aspiring writers to like help them pitch book deals who's in the publishing industry. So message me. I could connect you to her.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
much appreciated. That's
Yeah.
much appreciated. I am very, as much, this has caused a bit of controversy actually recently, is that someone suggested that I get an editor, and my instinct was I don't want an editor because I don't want them changing my work, and
Right.
I don't want them, for lack of a better word, fucking with my work.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh no, they'll just do grammatical and spelling errors and things like that." I'm like, well, if you could find somebody who is trans, who understands the context of Turkish society, and I'd be more than open to
Right.
having that offer.
Who understands that you have a specific writing style and that
Yeah,
you use certain things like periods instead of commas.
exactly.
Yeah. So let me translate for the world what Füsun is saying. Fuck you. I don't need an editor.
I'm glad you could say it, Lawrence.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's important to be able to, get the message out. I
Yeah.
think you know what? I agree with you. There are certain writing styles I think that are where an editor is detrimental, right? And I know that a million people will scream at me, but I don't care. Uh, I think part of what you're trying to say here, if I may be so bold, is let you get the entire workout, right? Like
Yeah.
read the entire book first before you start saying I need an editor, because there is a style and there is a purpose to the way that you're writing it and the grammar that you're using. And maybe then could somebody offer some kind of input. But until that point, your writing is so clear on its first publish on Substack, doesn't need a fucking editor.
Thank you. That, all that being said, I do appreciate the feedback and the comment and stuff, but it's like a record. Eventually, it'll get remastered, and it will go over and over again, and we'll figure things out, and maybe we'll change something, or maybe we won't change something, but I
Yeah.
need to. My biggest problem is that I focus too much on the editing, and that focus on editing strangles the creative process.
Absolutely.
So I firmly,
You need to write drunk but edit sober. You need to
exactly,
let yourself write drunk more. It's my favorite
exactly,
T-Mug, and I happen to have it
exactly,
here today.
exactly. Exactly. It's a
I'm
lovely
the
mug.
quiet I'm the quiet dissenting voice of, I love a good editor, not someone who's gonna come in and heavy-handed be like, "Red lines," but, I have one friend in particular who is for me, a trusted editor who, helps me see blind spots in my writing. Not that I'm coming in and being like, "You need this," but, a heads up to or hands up for all the editors out there who know how to bring out a writer's voice and make a story better without being heavy-handed and changing the elements. Just because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I love my little editor friends.
Yeah,
Let's worry about
I
it
do
after you
get
read
that.
the book deal.
And also, I think what Füsun is writing is jazz, right? And
Yes,
you don't
a good
a
editor will
jazz artist
understand.
doesn't need somebody to tell them that they're missing a beat or out of syncopation or something. Like, listen to the entire jazz piece first.
Exactly. My friend, God love her, Kat, is a very close friend of mine, and I used to write a lot of my work on typewriters, and I would type a lot of her work, and she'd come over, and she's like, "Can I read this?" And I go, "No, stay the fuck away from it. Don't go near it. Don't don't even look at it, you know, because if you tell me something is wrong, I'm gonna hyperfixate on it, and I won't finish it."
Right.
You know, that's exactly. Jazz is a good word. I like that. I like that comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we're right at the top of the hour, a little over. Füsun, any closing thoughts you want to leave us with today?
Yeah. Hashtag free the olive for Ben. Olive lives matter, also for Ben and Brandon.
Yes.
And yeah, that's about it. That's the conclusion.
I love that conclusion. This is such a joy. It's always a joy to talk
Pleasure.
to you, and especially about your writing. Dana, any closing thoughts from you?
Just that it's been wonderful to talk with you as always, Füsun. Love the story. Cannot wait to read each installment. You all should do so as well. And that Lawrence, I'm excited for the rest of the week. We have some amazing guests lined up tomorrow. We're talking about fathers, and we're talking about fathers with the opinionated ogre. Are we coming on as sock puppets again? I think I need to be my real face when I talk about
I think I'm going to be real
though
tomorrow.
though maybe she'll make a little appearance.
Right.
Family of origin stories are always so interesting to me, and I know tomorrow's will be great. So please come tune in again, everybody. And otherwise, just have a great Tuesday.
Thank you for having me. It's
Thank
been a
you
great
so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you so
Always
much.
an honor. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
We love you. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.